It was a little bit scary. We'd been in the MTC for about 2 months and knew a little bit of Spanish. But landing there in Mexico and then getting off the airplane and going to the customs counter, it's like, I don't know what they're saying. But we got through customs, or at least got our passports checked. Then we went over and picked up our bags, and it's like, where did we go? And we saw, oh, there's some opening doors over there. So we walked through the doors, and outside was the mission president and the APs, the assistants to the president. And it was really great to see them. We loaded up in the vehicles and headed off to the mission home. If I remember correctly, we had a bunch of missionaries from the Mexican MTC, as well as all the missionaries from the Provo MTC, that showed up that Monday. Yeah, it was a Monday. And so the Mexican elders were finishing their training Monday evening. So we didn't really do much training ourselves because we got there about 4 in the afternoon. So we just went to dinner and came back and went to bed. Next day was training. So most of the houses in Mexico are made out of baked bricks, and most of the time mortared together, and cement. So most of the houses we lived in or apartments were like that. They were built that way. It was quite dusty most of the time, quite humid. The missionaries, in my experience, usually had fairly good apartments. I think some of the missionaries could have cleaned their houses a little bit better. There were some places that were not as good as others. It's definitely not like the United States. Some places, it seems like all we had was a wash basin where we had to dip the water. So there wasn't running water, we had to dip it out of the, what do you call it, the tub or the pool or whatnot. Some of the toilets didn't have toilet seats. So, I don't know. The weather where I was at in Guadalajara and surrounding areas was pretty mild. I don't think it got hotter than, say, 90 degrees, and in the summertime, and in the wintertime it was probably around 40 or 30. I'm not entirely sure because, again, I didn't have a thermometer. And all the temperatures there were in degrees Celsius. Food is excellent, although you have to be careful, like follow the mission rules, don't eat out at the street vendors because they don't have a way to sanitize what they're selling. There wasn't too much symbolism. It was basically just the pyramid, and maybe up at the top there was a stone with some etching in it, but it was really faded. I'm not sure whether they had excavated it completely or just those 2 temples. The brother was saying that it was likely that there were more pyramids underneath the other hills in the area, but for lack of funds and other things, they hadn't excavated them yet. There weren't any large ruins that I knew of, although in a place called Zitácuaro, there was a member there who was part of kind of the, not necessarily the Forest Service, but kind of the National Park Service. So he knew of some pyramids that were about half an hour away from the city. And so I think with different companions and districts, we went out there twice and saw the 2 pyramids, the Temple of the Moon and the Temple of the Sun. Got to climb up them one side and go down the other. It was very cool. The people are very friendly. It's a very common practice, or at least as a missionary, you don't feel awkward saying good morning or good afternoon or good evening. In fact, that's quite common among the Mexican people themselves. You know, if you were to say it to everybody here in the United States, it'd be a little bit strange. But there in Mexico, you say hello to everybody. And most everybody says hello back. Sometimes they correct you and say, well, it's actually the nighttime instead of the afternoon. But each city had a different kind of cutoff time. Some thought it was 6, some thought it was 7, some thought it was until it was dark. So as you moved around, you kind of had to learn the area's custom with regard to that. Mexican people are very friendly for the most part, as long as you're not trying to sell them something. And, well, in the MTC, it was certainly hard to learn the language. I tried to study the Book of Mormon after a while in Spanish, just as practice. I'd actually read the Book of Mormon in Spanish 3 times before my mission. So I didn't understand the grammar, but I understood some of the words, and I could pick out what was happening from the Book of Mormon. Once in Mexico, again, it's like I didn't understand most of what was being said in Spanish. My first companion, it was really hard to communicate about what was going on and what we needed to do. But after that, it was a little bit easier with my next companion. And about 6 months into the mission, I felt very confident in my ability to share the gospel. So that's about 4 months in. So 2 months in the MTC plus 4 months in the mission field. Kind of a painful experience, but my companion, Elder Leonor, he enjoyed kicking rocks with his feet, kind of like soccer balls, trying to make goals in between my legs. And there was this one time that we were hiking down this hill, and he kicked this rather big rock, and it hit my ankle. Now, I had told him to stop kicking rocks at me before, so I was quite upset because it hurt. And so I turned around, and I, in a rather angry but trying to be controlled voice, said, "Was that you?" And he said, "No, it wasn't me." And so then I decided, okay, well. So I calmed down, I turned around and just kept walking. And then he started laughing because he thought it was so funny that in one moment I had been so upset and trying to keep my anger under control, and the next moment I just forgot it and kept on walking, and he thought it was so funny because he had kicked the rock. Particular experience, one that did result in a success, is again with the people that we ended up contacting. We taught, see if I can remember their names, Maria Elena, I think, Maria. We taught her there in her doorway, the first discussion, and we set up a return appointment. We came back, and her husband was there, and she tried to get her children to come in, but they didn't want to listen the first time. And it was a great thing to be able to share the gospel with them, because they were very interested in learning what we believed. They would ask questions and give us time to answer, and it was a very satisfying to be able to have a discussion where they weren't trying to tear down what you were saying, but they were interested in what you were saying. And then they would actually take the challenges to read the Book of Mormon and to pray. It took a while to get them to come to church, but they eventually came, and it was great to be part of the process of helping them learn more about the gospel. Well, there's quite a bit of experiences. Even though we didn't baptize all these people, quite often we would find people that had experienced a traumatic event, say a job loss, or somebody in their family had died, or they were concerned about their children or other family members. And I don't know, in the beginning of my mission it's like, why are we finding so many people like this? But towards the end of my mission I recognized that God was working miracles to bring peace and comfort and guidance to His children. Even if they weren't completely ready to receive the fullness of the gospel, they could at least receive a portion of His Spirit and His love. And it was a great thing to be the instrument in the Lord's hand in bringing that to people. Well, the first 6 months of my mission, about the same time that I was learning the language, I struggled quite a bit with homesickness. Now, I think that's quite normal for people to be homesick, to remember home, especially when you're experiencing a new culture and trying to assimilate the differences and the similarities. But I found that the best way to cope was to go out and work hard, even though you might not feel like doing so. To go out and do your best to share the gospel and to open your mouth. And also praying throughout the day, just silently in my mind, helped me to remember that I am a child of God and that He was aware of me and that I wasn't separated completely from all that I loved and knew. In fact, that's why I was there, is because I knew the gospel was true. I knew that Jesus Christ is our Savior, and I knew that my family knew that as well, and they wanted me to go out and share that with everybody else. Well, communicating is a big thing. Obviously, I learned Spanish. I learned how to talk with strangers and be able to relate my life to something in their life and try to build connections that way. It's been a great thing because after I got home from my mission, I was called to be a language missionary from my stake to go help out in the Spanish unit in my city in Spanish Fork, Utah. And so I was there for about a year and a half working with the different members, Spanish-speaking members from Mexico, Argentina, Chile, all over Latin America. That was a great thing that I had the ability to help in that missionary work. Communication has also been critical in other wards that I've been in, Singles Ward up in Idaho, and now in the ward that I'm in with my wife. So communication is a big one. My testimony of Jesus Christ grew a lot, and it's continued to grow. I've continued to gain greater understanding of the atonement of Jesus Christ. And serving a mission was a key part of building that foundation such that I could continue to grow in my testimony. You need to respect your mission president and do your best to support him and sustain him. Even if some of the things that he wants you to do don't make sense and there's some moaning and groaning, you need to do your best to follow his counsel, because he was called by the Lord through his apostles, and he has the rights to direct the missionary work in your mission. Unfortunately, there was quite a bit of friction between the missionaries and my mission president, but things went better when we did what he asked us to do. We were able to receive the promised blessings, accomplish the goals that we had as a mission. Not so much dangerous, just kind of like I was never assaulted or stood up or anything like that. With a knife. There was one time though that quite often there would be people drunk or on drugs, and they wanted to talk to the missionaries because either they knew that the missionaries were spiritual people and they could help them, or I don't know. Most of the time I felt like they just wanted to keep the missionaries occupied and not let them get on to more important work. Because when you're in that state, you're not really listening, you're not really comprehending. But anyway, there was this one time when my companion and I we were walking, I don't know exactly where, probably to an appointment. And this person, probably a drug addict, stopped us and said, "Do you have a peso?" And we said no, we didn't have a peso. And so we just kept walking because he just wasn't understanding. So he was pushing a dolly type cart. So we walked past him, and so he turned around and he was yelling stuff, and he turned the cart around and he started chasing us. And his mother, who was with him, kept yelling, "Stop, Juan, stop!" And so we took off running and took off up the hill and cut across and lost him, but that was the funniest, but also kind of the most heart-pounding experience that I had. Well, the people that my companions and I were able to baptize were all referrals from members, except for two. And we, in my companionships, baptized about 26 people. Just to give you some perspective, the member referrals were much more successful. Now, so I would say, go meet with the less active members, go meet with the members, and try to be in contact with them such that when they meet new people or when they interact with their old friends, that you can be aware of what's going on and you can help the members have the faith and courage to take the initiative to invite their friends to receive the gospel. But at the same time, it's also important to be doing all that you can to seek out other people. Perhaps you won't discover, or perhaps they won't listen and be baptized while you're there, but again, you can plant the seeds of faith. I believe that the two people that we were able to baptize because we contacted them, it was because we had been working diligently, even though we had to walk about an hour to where that neighborhood was, and it was quite a ways from our house. It was great to teach them. Well, key is to be good friends with the leaders in the ward and to support the branch president or the bishop, depending on where you're at. See what you can do for him to make contact with other members. Quite often we would receive assignments from the bishop or the ward mission leader to visit a particular family or person. In fact, during our mission, the area presidency asked us to help verify all the membership records within the units. So that was a great resource because we now had a master list, so we could go and search for people that used to come to church, and we would try and identify where they were at or where they had gone to. That was a good resource. But again, you need to be able to communicate with the members, be aware of what they do, say for a living, who their friends are, and always encourage and inspire them to live the gospel and invite others to listen to the missionaries. You also need to do your best to stay on schedule and meet your commitments. Even though there might be these really wonderful people that you're teaching, if you get behind in your schedule, you might lose opportunities because some members get frustrated if the missionaries don't show up. And so they figured maybe the missionaries don't really care. Unfortunately, that happened several times in my experience, but when you could stay on schedule and you could meet the members and go with them to meet their friends, it was a great thing. Well, it depends on the companion. Different people have different personalities. That's true in the mission field as well as outside the mission field. You have to be willing to learn about new people and not just to make assumptions about who they are, what they do, what they think. It helps to be open and to keep communication going. I personally struggle with talking with people, especially people I don't know well, even people that I do know well. And quite often that was the point of friction with most other missionaries had with me, is because they didn't know much about me because I didn't say much on my own. I had several companions though that helped me to open up more, to learn the language more and communicate better. I was with one companion for like 3 transfers, so that's about 3.5 months. No, 4.5 months. And he just loved life. He loved being a missionary, and he had a great time, and he helped me to also be able to open up and communicate better. And so that was about a year into the mission, and so the second year was really enjoyable. If you want to learn more about Mexican culture, if you know any people from Mexico, talk with them. Ask them how things are in Mexico, and they'll probably be able to provide a lot of contrast, since they're living where you're at, obviously. Then they can relate. They can more clearly see the differences between Mexico and here. For example, I talked with a member in my ward who explained the fact that in Latin countries, people have 2 last names. One last name is from their father and the other last name is from their mother. And that was very helpful, because once I got down to Mexico, yes, people had 2 last names, maybe 2 or 3 or 4 first names. And so it was helpful to know that information. Well, I think as always, there's more that you could do, but you need to do the basics. You need to study the scriptures. You need to pray. You need to seek charity, like Mormon teaches in Moroni 7:48. You need to pray and ask Heavenly Father for charity. Because when we love the people, even though they may reject us, or they reject the message of the gospel, restored gospel of Jesus Christ, we can still love them. We can still be friends, although we need to also remember that our purpose is to invite all people to come unto Christ. I think if I had been more consistent or more keyed into that idea, that it wouldn't have been so hard to experience rejection. That was a hard thing for me, because there were a few times when people would say, "Oh, you're a gringo," and that's a common term. It's not an offensive term. It's just describing somebody from North America, or north of Mexico, I should say, because Mexico is in North America. But there was one time when it's like, "Oh yeah, I am a gringo and I don't fit in here," and it caused me to really question what I was doing there. But at the same time, that was a great opportunity for me to evaluate really why I was there and strengthen my testimony and conviction that Jesus is our Savior and that this is His church. Yes, follow the mission handbook.